Review Friday, and today, as the title says, I am talking about Boxers and Saints by Jean Luen Yang. This is a graphic novel duology all about the Boxer Rebellion in China that took place in 1900 and 1901. And we follow both sides. First, a boxer and a saint. So what these are about. As tensions break out in China, leading to the Boxer Rebellion, we follow two Chinese on either side. First, we follow Little Bao, who helps form the Society of the Righteous and Harmonious Fists, aka the Boxers. We watch him slip from just a freedom fighter into more of a murderer. Then we follow Four Girl, who has no name and becomes a saint because she can get a real name, Vibiana. In Christianity, she finds her name and her calling. Both are visited by spirits of the dead, these two right here on either side, who aid them in this conflict. Now, this really shows how terrible war is. Neither side is right. Neither side makes good choices. The Boxers start slaughtering innocent women and children. They burn down churches with people inside. They just slaughter entire villages. It's terrible, really, what they do. And they take it out mostly on their fellow Chinese, who they call the Little Devils, because they become Christian. Whereas the Christians are brutalizing the local Chinese who aren't Christian. Literally, if you say you're Christian, they don't care if you're a murderer. They don't care if you steal from people. You can commit all sorts of sins, do all sorts of terrible things because Christianity is the right religion and it's better than the other one. It's a load of crap. It kind of just escalates. In the end, the Chinese lost, regardless of which side they were on. I read online today that this was just before China went from an empire into a people's republic. So this really was the catalyst of proving that neither side was helping the Chinese in the long run. Now, these characters are polar opposites, and I kind of like the imagery of seeing that they're polar opposites here in the covers. First, we follow Little Bao, and at first you really feel for him because, you know, his dad gets attacked and brutalized, and they destroy their local deity. People are stolen from, and so he just gets tired and has had enough with the way the Christians are treating them. So he decides to fight back. And then it escalates, and he gets worse and worse and worse, and becomes a straight-up murderer. Vibiana's the opposite. You kind of feel for her, but she's very kind of self-centered, really stupid. She doesn't make very good choices, I don't think. I did not like her very much at all. And then she grows through Christianity into trying to be a hero, trying to help people. I don't think she knows how bad the guy that she follows, the father who baptized her and gave her her name, is. But she does not make those choices. She would not brutalize people. She doesn't believe in that. She believes in making right choices. The way these books work, Boxers is first, but Saints takes place during Boxers. Not that hard to tell because look at the size difference. This is so much thicker than this. This is like way more than twice the size. It's close to 3 times the size of Saints. But Saints you must read next because it includes a scene that is glossed over in Boxers, and then there is an epilogue to both of these books. Now these both are really tragedies. In the end, again, as I said, everyone loses. It was not a good conflict, and it didn't help China much at all, except to go from being an empire to a republic that's now a dictator communist state, where if you do anything wrong, you're basically forced into work camps and worked until you die. But Saints is especially a tragedy, because it takes place in Boxers, you know how it's going to end. When you start it and realize who she is, you know what's going to happen, and that makes it harder to read and even more of a tragedy, and yet I ate them both up very quickly. I liked Saints more. Boxers was a 3.5 out of 5 stars, whereas Saints was a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I don't think I want to own them, but I am really glad that I got to read them because I learned a lot about the Boxer Rebellion. I learned a lot about Chinese mythology through Boxers. It was very educational. So I actually recommend y'all go read this. The artwork is kind of cartoony, as you can see. Even the blood is kind of cartoony. Let's see if I can find blood. Yeah, even the blood is kind of cartoony. So, don't go into them like, oh, I'm going to get great artwork. Not really, but at the same time, I think the story transcends the artwork and make it. It's not how the pictures are drawn as much what is drawn and the way the panels are put together. It reminds me a lot of the art style of Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack is much harsher. This is much more round type of drawings. Samurai Jack, you know, it was extremely cartoony. It was kind of lame looking, and yet the way it was cut and edited blew me away. That's true with Boxers and Saints. So if you're kind of put off by the artwork, go ahead and pick them up. See how well you'll like it. Now we're getting into the spoilery section. Who the ghosts are. This is totally spoiler, but this guy is the spirit, the god he would see. Well, once he started dropping names like Guan Yu and Liu Bei, I knew that he was actually talking about ancient Chinese rulers. Guan Yu and Liu Bei were brothers in the Three Kingdoms era. Liu Bei was one of the leaders. Guan Yu was his sworn brother. Sworn, so not really brother, but best friend, who supported him during the time of the Three Kingdoms era. If you've ever played Dynasty Warriors, you know who Guan Yu and Liu Bei are. But he could recognize all of them, but he had no clue who this is. This is Emperor Qin, the first emperor of China, the great, great butcher. He slaughtered thousands and thousands of Chinese. He conquered the 13 kingdoms there were at the time and made it all the land of Qin, China. And yet he was just a monster. He was drinking mercury, which causes paranoia. And so he literally would slaughter several hundred people at a time every few days. But Little Bao is very uneducated, and so he didn't know who this guy was. And when he said, I'm the first emperor of China, that was impressive to him. Whereas for me, I would be like, holy crap, there is no way I want a mass murderer leading me. He was like Stalin. He killed more people than Hitler? Yeah. Qin was like that. The first emperor. Scary, scary guy. So to hear, oh, I'm going to lead you, it was no surprise that he was having Little Bao burn a church to the ground filled with simply women and children. Not surprising at all that he did that, because this guy did that. He had an entire class, all scholars, nationwide, and China's huge, wiped out. All of them killed immediately. That's what he did. He was a monster, and so Little Bao became despicable. And in the end, when he lost the battle, I was happy. I was like, well, that's kind of a satisfying ending, since he's a scumbag now. But no surprise, because he was taking advice from a mass murderer. On to Saints. Viviana starts off, as I said, very annoying. Very self-centered. I understood her wanting to get a name. But before that, she was there for treats. And it was annoying. But once she learned her name, I went, okay, she's going to seriously listen now. But even then, the whole time, she was like, can I have cookies while we learn? It's like, no. She really didn't have any faith in her religion. She didn't really believe in it. But as she learned more about Joan of Arc, she started to have faith. Because Joan of Arc, as you know, was very religious. She gave her life for her religion. And in the end, just like it showed in the scene in Boxers, that scene where he set the church on fire. Before he set the church on fire, he killed Viviana in an alleyway. It was off text, but in this we get to see what happened. He killed her because he said, you must deny your faith. And she says, no. And he's like, what's your name? Viviana. No, what's your real Chinese name? And she just looks at him. Because she doesn't have a name. She's Four Girl, which means Death Girl. I like Viviana's story a lot more than Little Bao's. And I'm sad that she dies, basically a martyr, for her religion, while Little Bao lives in the epilogue. And yet, there was this sense of hope and more of a good ending with Saints, because when she died, she saw Christ first. She's basically waiting for Little Bao to kill her, to execute her, as he said he would, because she won't give up her faith. She sees Christ. And he tells her the story of the Levite, and all she wanted was to save people, to save her people. But then, at the very, very end in the epilogue, we learned that what she did is, before she died, she said a prayer, and she taught him either an English prayer or a prayer in Latin. I'm not certain what, it's just not Chinese. And then when he survived the fighting, he used that prayer to live. And I don't like that he lived. What I like is that Viviana, the very last thing she thought as she died was, and that was it. That's how I died, unable to protect anyone. And she saved Little Bao's life by teaching him that prayer. So while I don't like that Little Bao lived, I'm glad that Viviana's death wasn't as in vain as she thought it was. She saved his life, And from the epilogue, I got the sense that Little Bao was going to stop being a boxer and was just going to try to live his life. The Boxer Rebellion did not have a good ending for China. The Chinese Empress, as it showed in Boxers, she threw in her lot with the Boxers and they were defeated because they attacked the foreigners in Peking. All foreign nations, Japan, Germany, Hungary, United Kingdom, and the US, and a couple others, France and Belgium, I think, too, sent a huge amount of troops who marched across the continent to get to Peking as fast as they could so that they could save those families trapped. Because they started to slaughter families who were there. Granted, they weren't treated right by the foreigners, but they were slaughtering children and innocent people. And so those soldiers moved in and destroyed the Boxers, killed them all, and forced, $33 million out of the Chinese Empress because she threw in her lot with the Boxers. Again, the Chinese lost, ultimately. They really did. Eventually, they had, as I said, it was like 10 years later or 11 years later, I think in 1912, the Empress was eventually removed. She either died or she lost power and she was removed from power, and the Republic of China was put up, the People's Republic of China, which runs now, but it's a communist state and it's a dictatorship. But at the same time, at least the Chinese are in charge. It was just really interesting to learn more because I didn't learn very much at all in school about Asia, but we focus on the US here, so I suggest you guys go and give this a try if you're still here and haven't read it. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to see more. Every Friday is a book review unless something's going on. I'm sorry I sound terrible. I'm very sick. My tea is probably getting quite cold. I need to drink this. Good luck with your reading, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! This is a duology graphic novel. It took place in 1800 to 1801. I said 1800. That takes that Boxer. That's kind of cool that you can do this. And I'm really glad that. I'm sorry if I'm spitting, y'all. I keep seeing spit flying out, but I can't help it. I really need the liquid in my mouth. But this kid, Little Bao, that's his name, right? Yeah, Little Bao. Good. I wasn't sure. That would be bad. Hi, this is easy on my throat. Oh, thumbnail. I have to do the thumbnail now. I can pick the books up without dropping them.